Yes, finally. Oh my god. Okay. we have some work to do here. Not everything. Oh, it's not everything though. But okay, it's still good. All right. Finally, Nerty's been doing work and updating stuff. So hopefully by the end of this week we'll have maybe some more KSP stuff going on. Okay, update all these. Everything, update them. So what we're doing right now is we're gonna be doing more streaming for the RO tools. I'm just gonna leave rest chair till tomorrow. Okay, let's go ahead and apply those. Yes, half of Nerty's stuff has been updated. Okay. Only half, though. One of the posts somewhere on says I'm live, yet we're not getting into kind of video. I think it's just the window wasn't updating properly. Yeah, there we go. There was a post on one of Nerty's. I forget exactly which one it was. It was on one of Nerty's mods things on the KSP forums that the goal was to either get out what was already updated, either yesterday or today, and then work on the rest of it after the construction mod was done, or to do the construction mod and do everything at once. So it looks like the former happened. So hoping that the rest of this, either by the end of this week or beginning of next week, will be updated as well. And I'll be able to do some more KSP stuff. So, I'm just gonna wait till it finishes in case something stupid happens. Because a lot of times what'll happen is that, like, on larger things, for whatever reason, CCAN sometimes screws up and tries to download a Kraken mod that's been actually removed from the mod list, but somehow it's like infected the coding for the thing, and it shows up every once in a while for some reason, for reasons that they don't really understand. All right, so we only have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 mods that now need to be updated. Still stuff from Nerty. I don't see any. Well, that's Nerty 2. I don't see anything that would have any like stuff in it that would be parts in it that would be causing any more of the issues in terms of like the images being messed up. So hopefully once the rest of Nerty stuff is done, we'll be able to properly do that again. Anyway, so we left off yesterday with getting basically a test, a completed test for the code that we wrote last night done. We passed through just a string representation of what's going to be in the SQL files, and then loaded that into the item class, had that process through the data and store it, and then update one of the fields, the script field, and then called the generate SQL statement, and it produced the correct thing that we're looking for. So just to kind of refresh and run through it again. So when I click on this, it's going to call this down here, this test function, which will assign the string to this value and then process everything else. And once it's done, it calls this generate SQL statement. And since we are updating an existing record, not creating a new one, it'll generate this update line of code update SQL code for this particular item when we do this. Because what will happen is that we'll have an item object for each item in the database or the file. It'll be loaded into the program and parsed into the parameters, the variables for the class. Then when we go to call this, we'll call it in a loop, so that every item will be processed through this code. And based on the variables that were set, this Boolean variable here that was set, if it's false, that means it's not a new item, it's an update. So it'll spit out one of these lines for that particular item. If it's true, when we create it, that means that it's a new item, doesn't already exist, so it'll spit out an insert statement instead of an update statement. And that's kind of where we ended up at last night. So what we're going to be doing today is kind of continuing to build this out. So what I want to do is I want to build out the item functionality first, and then what we learned from that will apply to the mob side of it, so that we can do it a little bit quicker. Without this, we don't want that there. So first thing we need to do is we need to create some test files to use for this. So what I'm going to do is let's go look at the settings real quick. So I need to create some dummy files with all this stuff in it. So I'm going to go to Resurrection Tools. Let's create a new folder called rAthena Database Item and Mob Database Editor. I guess we'll call it Item and Mob Database Editor. And in here we'll create a new folder called SQL files, I guess. And then here we'll generate a bunch of files that will just have some test data in it. So first things first, we'll need to create an SQL file. So itemdb.sql. And yes, I'm going to change the type to SQL. Let's copy that and then rename it to 2. Now I need to fix because it's actually itemdb2_re, not re2. So these ones need to, yeah, let's do 3 and 4. Well, that makes sense. Going the wrong direction here. No, that's right. This one's not right. This one's not right. All right, there. Save that. Okay. So we got that. We have this. Let's copy these again. Rename to _re. I don't know what in Windows Vista, I think. Not XP or Vista. What was it? So it was like 2006. Well, Vista didn't come out to 2007-ish. I didn't really get 2009 or 10. So it had to have been XP that I was working on. Let's see. Let's see. I'm trying to remember. So the first computer I built in 2007 that had Vista on it. That did have Vista on it. I'm pretty damn sure I had Vista on it. Yeah, I think I remember now, because Vista came out while I was working at a call center, and it kind of made everyone's hair go on fire, because now they had to learn a new operating system to kind of help people through the stuff for that. So, yeah, it did have Vista. So in Vista, what would happen is if you had a file that had the same name, well, I guess that wasn't really the same name, but let's say that we have this file here, for example. If you changed... let me rename this real quick. Like, for example, if it had the same name, different extension. So we got this txt and this SQL file, and if you change the name, so _2. Okay, it still does work that way, but it's only when it's two separate file types, not the name being slightly different. All right. itemdb2.re or _re. This one we got to change to itemdb. Whoop, we deleted it. I deleted it. Actually, we can just undelete it and then change it. Item and then re.sql. Yes, I'm going to change it. Then I just want to take all this, copy paste it, and no, I don't want to open it. I want to rename them to mobdb. Alright, rename to mobdb.re. So basically what I'm going to do is I want to create some files here that we can try and load in. I want to do the loading in code. Now, rename mobdb2 and then re2, or db2 or re. I don't really know what the purpose of the db2s are, to be honest. I guess maybe if you wanted to do like custom stuff into the db2 or something, but I've never seen the point in using them, to be honest. Now, now we need to generate some stuff for this. Let's open all these. Well, it's gonna open different windows, won't it? Crap. Or no, it did it. Oh no, it did open them all in the same window. Good. I was not sure if it would. So what is this? This is mobdb2re. So the way this is gonna go is we're just gonna basically it's gonna be like comma delimited. You could do it with CSVs, but it's easier to do SQL because MySQL will spit out either. Well, I guess it would spit out a CSV, wouldn't it? It could be anything. I might change it to CSV instead of SQL. I'm just going to use SQL for now. But it could be any file type. It just doesn't. The file type doesn't really matter. The extension doesn't matter. What matters is the formatting in the file. So, in this case, let's see. I don't want to do mob stuff actually right now. Just item. Okay, here we go. This is all pretty much item stuff here. Oh, it opened up in another window too. Interesting. So this is from one of the tables. I think it's the ItemDB table. RE, okay. ItemDB RE. Either way, I just want to grab a few of these, throw them over here. Obviously, we'll just take off everything at the beginning there. So I'll have to handle null values. Let's see. Home. That's what it was. Jeez. Okay, and then this one. I was watching the Facebook thing. Sent testimony earlier, but I think pretty much everyone's kind of gone on to just doing whatever. I think, at least where I was watching it, kind of broke off to other stuff. But that's the whole Facebook thing. It's I don't know. I mean, it's obviously that some kind of crime occurred at some point by at least, if not Cambridge Analytica, at least also Facebook. In terms of their responsibilities to police what people do with the data from their platform, but I'm pretty sure it's all just going to work itself out in the end, and either Facebook's going to go bankrupt or I think they probably don't get out of this without a fine at this point from the FTC. They're in violation of a couple of rules that they had agreed to follow from various litigation in the past. So it should be interesting to see kind of what happens with that. But all right, so this is the formatting we're going to have for this. Strings will be denoted by single quotes like this, and I guess nulls will be nulls because nulls are always nulls, and we'll need to add some code into that to handle those. During the split or something. The other thing is that it could be a null integer or it could be a null string. And to be honest, I'm not really sure why these are null anyway. There should be a default value of like 0 or just a blank whatever, blank string. You really should never have null data in a table that's being used for things like anything, really. Because it should cause your software to just go, okay, I'm going to clock out now and error out and crash and do all sorts of weird things because I shouldn't be handling null data. Or at least null values in a record that has other data that should be there, but whatever. Probably internally, rAthena's code probably takes null values and assigns a default thing to it anyway, but it's just like, why do it that way? Why create code to do that when you can do it in the database? So I just want to grab a few from each line here. Let me see. could we remove this? This is like a lot of stuff to remove manually. Is there a way that we could remove this by regex? I mean, it's possible. The question is the expression to do it. So, let's see. Place with nothing. Unmarked matching. Oh, this. Right. We need to escape that, I guess. Or would it be a pipe? Maybe it's a pipe. Missing operator now, it's not a pipe. What is the literal... Okay, match, let's see. Regex, regex, to remove all characters up to a string. Or before a character. So match started a string underscore. Well, let's see. Okay, so underscore and matching until. So yeah. But how do you? I guess I guess we'd have to escape the parenthesis. Okay, so bracket caret bracket caret underscore. Well, that would be for, I don't know if that would actually. Well, let's see. So caret bracket caret. In this case, it would be values space. Unmatched or in creation card here. Aha, there we go. Oh wait, did that work? Well, just it changed something. I'm not sure what it changed though. It only removed the I. Okay. Am I missing something? I think it's something. Oh. That I'm not sure if we need the underscore. No, it didn't work either, really. Okay, let's try this other one, the one for JavaScript. Where was that one at? So that dot everything, and let's see, matching everything until including that. So no, I don't think that's right. Other way around. Oh no, that is right. Never mind. Not match regular expression. What if we just go to the? No, it doesn't work here either. I wish there would just be like a common implementation for frickin' regex across everything, so you wouldn't have to try and find the correct string commands that would work. Text pad. Oops. Start of a line, a number of characters except new line, white space or tab, hash mark white space number. So that's any number of characters until. So, caret. A number of characters of new line. So then. Okay, that didn't work. Let's see, there needs to be another parameter here. Couldn't find that. So regex replace and match until. Let's do this. TextPad regex commands. Oh, come on. Seriously? A bloody video? Or actually, it was a slideshow. All I want's just like a reference of the commands TextPad expects for regex. Why is that such a hard thing to find? 1, 2, 3 instead of for what? Replace with. Characters quantifiers. Let's see, one more exact, one more. So 1 digit, code, Python word character, white space, Python 3 characters, not digit defined. Any character except line break, logic, or white space. More quantifiers, character classes. I want to specify a specific end of string. Okay, that's why that didn't work. Start of string, end of string. What I want to do is to match a specific string of characters. So in other words, from the start of the line until values. And including values, remove those. Positive look ahead. Maybe positive look ahead. D10, D5. So out of 10 digits, match 10, or the first 5, I guess, is what that is. see. Positive look ahead after the match. D equals dollars. Okay, so we can use well, yeah, equals. So maybe we want to look behind. Look ahead before the match. Negative look ahead. Look behind. Search the current position is string follows digits, characters, dollars. So if we can figure out how to do this, it'll just be a lot easier to handle this data. So definitely done with this. You might though want this. Maybe. Cannot find. No. So regex match string. I don't want like a. Let's just start with A, B, C, or D, E, F. So I mean, if you think about this, then it should be this dot star then the. Maybe space. So maybe this star space values. Cannot match the expression. Be nice to know what engine it's using. Regex doesn't. Regex match string text pad. Let's match multiple strings text pad. Well, I don't want to just match. I want to match anything up until match until string. See the regular expression text pad. Search C dot plus B following the span. Oh, C dot plus B. Maybe. So this dot. Cannot find. Really? Oh, use POSIX for regular. So preferences editor. Underneath configure. Preferences editor. Use POSIX for. Really? It's not even in here. Wow. Use POSIX transition syntax. URL not found. Awesome. Text pad regex. So maybe go something a little more generic so we can find something. Find beginning and end selection. Find what's dot and replace with so searches for carrots and replaces with strong. Again, when was this from 13? Okay, so again, I'm not sure if, because maybe they're just using it by default, not POSIX. Then start of the string, any number of value, any number of, well, it should be this for any number of characters. Cannot find, closing found. Because that's interesting. Not find literal, or cannot match, whatever. Can't find a match for it. Active document. Is it actually? Oh, it is matching it now. Okay. So I didn't have it set to the right thing. Probably was working this entire time for a couple of them, but selected text was active. So. Perfect. That's what I wanted. So replace all. Yay. Good. And then take that off because we just want to remove this and replace it with nothing. As for the rest of it, the nulls, we'll just deal with it, I guess. So we got, was it those three in there? Up to blue potion. So let's do to green herb into here. Up to honey in the next one. Should probably save these. No, I don't want to. Jeez. Wish I could disable that annoying thing without having to buy the software. Okay. We can also handle. Okay, this is a good one too because we'll be able to handle the this in there and see what that does to it, if anything. Okay, so we have our 4 ItemDB tables that have stuff in them now. So 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, and what we're gonna do is we're gonna read these in. So these are in our folder here, SQL files. Let's go ahead and take a look at this code here. So we're already doing this. We're setting up the dialog, and then now what we need to do is to add some code here to load in the files and process the data, similar to what we were doing here. So what we need to do is we need another. Okay, let me see. So what's going to store? Where are we going to store the? We should, yeah, okay, we'll call it data handling or data processing or something similar to that, and that will contain the lists of items and the list of item and mob objects, and we'll access those lists through the reference to that object through here, instead of directly through here. So let's add a new item. It's going to be a class, and we're going to call it data handler, I guess. Well, let's use all data handler. Just try and be a little more C# class name friendly than the item and mob classes, which I didn't capitalize. So data handler. So in data handler, we're going to have a couple things. First, we're going to have references to item. So list of item called items, and a list of mob called mobs. Name. Oh, whoops. Wrong spots. That's a namespace. We want to put them in the class definition. All right, there we go. That's where they should go. Next, we'll want to do an initializer. So, public void. Well, actually, we don't need to use void. Public data handler. When we call this, we're going to pass through the folder location. So, string FLD path, folder path. We will need to use the same thing we did before over in settings. I don't want that part of the CS, I want the other part of it. Over here, yeah, this part. Just grab this. Just gonna need that over here. So we're gonna access the property for the generated directory. Not the generated directory, but this up here. The list of files to expect to be in this folder. So we want to grab the first one here. I also want to pass through a couple parameters. First will be a bool b use re tables, and bool b use secondary tables. So these will be the options that you can check in the other window. All right, so what we need to do now is we need to create a list of file names out of these two. So first of all, we need to combine them if we're going to be using them. So let me go ahead and create a string file names up here. So file names equals this for sure. If and then if b use secondary is enabled, file names files names, great, file names plus equals, we'll add a comma and then also add in the rest of this. We don't need that line at all. Okay, so we are going to use for sure the official SQL files. And then if we have that option selected in the other window, we're going to pass through that flag as true, and if it's true, we're going to add the secondary SQL files setting value to the file name string, and create a, essentially just add a comma to delimit it, and then add the rest on. Now we need to create a list of string, and we'll just call this one files. So basically, I'm going to do the split thing again. Actually, it has to be an array, right? It can't be a. Oh wait, does it split goes to an array or to a list? Really quick, I think I'm confusing that with a different thing. Oh right, we did. We used regex before. I think split will go to a list automatically. Well, I guess we'll find out. Be nice if it went to a list. So files equals file names dot split on comma. And actually it should be a character, so single quote. Nope, not or let me see. Nope, yeah, it doesn't. It's a okay. It has to be a. Damn, that's fine though. It'd be nice if it would automatically convert between the two because they're pretty much similar in terms of like what they actually are, but whatever. I hate using arrays just because you can't modify them. Though I guess we don't really need to modify this. This is going to be a static list of file names based on a comma delimited string that we already know what it is, so it's not really going to change. Now, after we do that, we need to we're going to need IO in here. And we're going to need to create a file reader and writer. Let's see. Plus C# file IO. So file class read all, write all. Okay, so we just need to create a file object, I suppose. String path, use stream writer, file that create text path. Or do we need a stream writer? Stream reader. No, I guess, yeah, we probably should have. I guess we need a stream reader and a file. Or, let's see, exists file that exists path. Path to write file, stream writer equals file. Write line opens the file to read from, stream reader open text path. Well, we'll see what it does with this SQL file. It shouldn't matter. It's basically just text in a file. So I don't think we need to have a. What about the stream writer and reader? Do we have to add anything for those? No, just system IO. Okay. So stream reader, file reader, and stream writer, file writer. We'll just predefine those. Alright, so, for, actually we'll just do a for each string file in, files. Now, we need to do a contains check based on the rAtables bool. That might be a regex, or there might be a contains that we can try. Let's see, string contains. Yeah, there's substring, I guess. That's true. Okay, no, there's just a dot contains for string. Good. So if b use rAtables is true. Well, let's say not true. Well, no, let's do true. It's better to do the positive than the negative. Well, let's see. If b use rAtables is true, and the file name is... So I don't want to have to do two things of code for this. So we have our class data handler here. Let's go ahead and create a private function, and we'll call it private void create item, and we just pass through string text. And then let me go over to our item thing here. Or no, what I need to do is to go to the form this. We need this, basically. Or at least some of it. So we have our text string that we have bring in. So text. Okay, we could do it as a one-liner, I suppose. So, we would use items.add item new item and that should be all we need to do for that. And then actually we could just copy this and use it the same way for monster, the mobs. Because we won't really take this parameter in here because mob text false, because we haven't set the mob class yet, but I'll put that in there. And let's also then okay, well actually, so we have this. So if it's true, then if the file dot contains re somewhere in it, that should actually be a string. Then process, and if not, let's see. What we want to do is we want to say if this is true, we want to skip. Not true. We want to skip the RE files. So it would be easier to say if it's not true, and if file does not contain RE, then do an else. Else just do everything. I think that'd probably be easier way to do it than the opposite. You can do it either way, but it just feels more correct to do it this way. Either way, though, we're going to be calling the create item. Oh, we have the string. That's right, string writer. We have to process all that first. String. There we go. So string reader. So we have our string. Using string reader sr equals file open path text path. First we have to see if the file exists, obviously. So if file dot exists, path would be SQL. Actually, the path will be our officials path. So file. Let's generate directory. The files path. So let's make another. Okay, we're gonna have to make another setting. I was wondering about this, and I was thinking maybe we don't want to do this. Maybe we do, but SQL directory. We're gonna create an SQL directory thing here as well. Setting. Which means we'll need to modify this a bit. Basically, all we have to do is just copy what we did with the with this. Okay, so this label should be changed to SQL files directory. This text box should change to tbox SQL files dir. Okay. Gen file dir SQL files directory. Actually, let's leave it as file, not files. SQL file directory. And then on this, btn browse 2. I think the other one's just browse. btn browse, yeah, browse 2. And on click, we're going to call the same open dialog though, so we don't have to recreate that. Okay. So that looks a little bit off to me. In terms of the space between them. That looks a little bit closer. That actually going in and like be nice if these would like actually work. Do I have to select 2 of these at once? No, that doesn't work either. Now it does. Weird. Yeah, no. Oh, it's fine. It looks like it's about center of the window. So now we need to go to here. We need to add in the code to handle that. So tbox SQL file dir dot text equals string settings dot default SQL directory. I think that's what we called it. SQL dir. If I'm not mistaken, SQL dir, yes. We'll just do this. Then save it, and then okay. So event origination, object sender. So if sender dot equals, so if sender dot equals tbox gen, this one, then do that. Else if sender dot equals tbox SQL file dir, of course. When we did that, deal with the stupid formatting there. So what we're going to say now is that we're going to say, since we have 2 different event origination points for this function. Now we need to check to see which button actually called it, and then based on that, set the return from it to that particular object's related control. So in this case, if the if sender equals no, that's not right. The sender equals the btn browse, and then the sender equals btn browse 2. There, that's that's actually more correct. Actually, not more correct. That is correct. The other way wasn't really correct. So if we click on the first browse button, then it's going to send the returned the selected file folder path to the gen file dir text box. If it's the second one, it's going to save that to the SQL file directory text box. All right. Now what we're going to do with that is we're going to take this over to data handler, and we're going to add a string SQL folder path, and I'm also going to do a string gen folder path. For when we're writing. So file exists, we'll create a string here in this. String, go away. String file path equals, so it would be the SQL folder path plus the file name, so file. So in the settings, we'll see what it brings in here, because we may need to do a couple things based on that. Let's just save this, and if exists file path, do something else. We want to do an else for this. Else message box dot show this so I'm going to say file plus is not located in the located in the designated folder, and then that'll be the SQL folder path, and then we'll say file not found, and then isn't there an icon for this? Message box buttons dot OK. I didn't like that. Why don't you like that? Form 1 CS. Message box that show message box buttons. So 1, 2, 3, 4th. Also has 20 overloads. Message box does not exist in the current context. Oh. We need to add something? What do we need to add? System, let's try these to start with. Well, those are already there. What's not here? Those forms isn't in here. cannot convert from to string. So, link, is that there? Link thread, threading task text is there. Component model is not there. Data is not there, and drawing is not there. Oh, because this isn't a form, it's just a class. That's why. So you probably don't need those either. So there won't be any owner for the message box. I also want to go ahead and comment this out. So now from over here, we want to change this from that to, and actually we will need that actually. But we also need then to create some data handler dhandle. So when we click on this, so this is that where that's from this. We're going to change this now, the onClick function, to say, whoops, that's not what we want to do. To load data. And we're just going to basically copy this down into here. And get rid of this one. And what we want to do with this now is create a new data handler. Well, not create a new one, but initialize it, I suppose. So dhandler, or handle, new data handler. So we need the folder path. We actually don't need the folder path because that's a setting now. We don't need folder path. Let's get rid of that. We do need the other two, the bools though. Those still need to be sent through. So those are referenced as these stupidly insane auto names. Dot checked. So if it's checked, it'll pass through whatever it is. So true or false. And then let's see what the other one is. Include secondary table menu item. Yeah. Dot checked. Okay. Open file settings, int item IDs, item ID. What's this here for? SQL files.show. Not sure why that's there for. Okay. So we're going to call this, and now when I call this, what I'm expecting to happen is to get a warning window show up for every file name, because the file open folder browse. So should we have this here at all then? Because we're using that as a setting on the other one. I think what we'll do is, so we no longer need this really. Actually, no, we can't do it that way. That'll cause the designer to frack up. We need to delete it from over here. So open SQL folder. Need to do that first, and then we just need to remove this. That's entirely. We don't even need that anymore. Now, if we go back over here, we can delete this and not have it screw up things on the design form. Yeah. All right, and then what we'll do is we'll take that over to here. If really quick here, if sender dot equals btn browse 2. Okay. Save that. Let's go ahead and see if it will build. It should. Alright, succeeded. Good. So, we need to start this first of all. And then we need to go to our options because we need to set our SQL files directory path. Okay, cool. Please note that SQL reformed each row, blah, blah, blah. Good, that shows up properly. I'm going to go down to, where are you? Here we go. Tools, rAthena and database editor, and then SQL files. Okay. And okay. Now, what I'm going to do real quick is I want to pull those files out of here. Just throw them into here. So I'm going to test that conditional code to see if it works or not. Put this back up. Okay, so there's no, the designated folder isn't being shown there. Good though, so that's cool. It's working. Let's go ahead and close this now. I'm going to add a new parameter here called type. So, and the type's going to be either item or mob. And what we'll do is, again, same thing we do with the settings form. What we'll do is we'll say that this will call that same function. That same function will just check the sender to see which one it is. Mob DB. And the name for this is button2, so we'll change this to btn mob DB. And btn item DB. Then for mob DB, on a click, we will call load data. And over here, let's go ahead and add that in real quick. Type. So if contains RE, and then if file dot contains type. Oh, it should be lowercase, not uppercase. I'll change that here in a second. And then that'll be, all this will be contained in there then. Okay. And this wouldn't have anything in it because we're not actually setting them down here yet, so we need to do that. I'm just gonna grab the, be easier than typing it all out. Okay. So now we have that. We have our type in here. Now over here again, change this to lowercase item. Alright, let's go start again. This time we're going to click on MobDB. Well, actually we don't, crap, close this. Form CS1 if sender dot equals btn item db else if sender dot equals btn mob db. Oh. And again, in the future, we might just combine all these together and load everything into here so that we can use the use some sort of an item lookup for when creating mobs for the drops. All right, so we have this. Now we want to give this a whack here. So SQL files without another bracket and to be not located in this folder. Okay, so if we go to options, include RE. Interesting. Because it's been initialized already, right? So, well, that shouldn't matter. It should still work. Let's go to data handler real quick. So if not use our tables. Oh, otherwise if use everything, then right. To be honest, I don't see a reason why we would, on this particular thing, why we would do a function for that. It would take more code to write a function for it than it would to just leave it in there like this. It is a little bit of a duplication, but the code that will go in here will be a different function. Will be a function call. So if we go to options, include RE. Good. And yes, good. Alright, let's go ahead and throw those in now. Back into the SQL files folder. We are going to need to add to this a plus on both of these. So that they have the last slash for the file path. So if it exists, we should not see this message now. Oh, also then true. The file path plus file plus .sql. Need the extension. And there we go. So no errors loading it in. No errors, so it's finding the files that they exist. Okay, so now we need to call a new function here called string, we'll say read data or something like that. Read in data, whatever. Private void read data. So file path exists. We need to use a file path. File path is a global class variable, so we don't need to pass it through. Well, actually, no, we do. The full file path is the full formatted one is. So we just call using streamwriter sw file.createText or file.openText path streamreader, and then we look until we find a null. So while streamreader line is not null, write that out. So we do need a file path string fpath. So using file reader. Using file reader as? No. Oh, okay, not okay, other way. It's a while loop, not a the using is when we're writing a file. So while file reader dot string while the string s of read line. Okay, so while string line of equals, so this is going to be a thing like this, dot read line does not equal null. I believe that's the terminology. Lowercase null. So while string is a type not valid given context, line does not exist in the given context. Why does it not like string for? From fpath. That doesn't seem like it's right. Oh no, there's a using. Crap. Using streamreader sr equals file open path. Using file reader equals file dot open path, open text, file path. Doesn't like file or fpath, that's why. And then read line. I guess we'll need to do we'll need to define string line somewhere else. Be nice if we could just define it right there, but so while it's not null, we just want to output what we get. So message box dot show, again null because there's no window to associate this with. So I just want to put out the line, so I'm just going to put line here, and then we're going to say put the fpath here, and then message box buttons dot OK. So I just want to see what's being it's being read in. So up here now, when we have file path exists for type, we want to then call this method for file path. And just need to copy that down here. So we'll start with this turned on. Obviously it's working. As you can see, got everything coming in, all the data, each line. From each file. Good. That's what I like to see. Working code. Now, what we want to do with this now is we want to process it into items. So what we're going to do is we're going to, instead of doing this, we're going to throw it over to the item class. So if we need to pass to the type as well to this. And we could use a bool that would be like is item, and if it's false then it's a mob, but it's better to do it this way in case we want to add in other tables besides items and mobs in the future. So if type equals item, do something, and else if type mob, do something else. And those something else's are going to be passing to create item or create mob. So create item text. The text line, which is going to be line, obviously. And then that's all we needed to do. Also, we probably should initialize both of those up here as well. List of item, or just item. Items equals new list of item. Okay, that's interesting. And then mobs equals new list of mob. Then I'm gonna write a new public function here, public, and we're gonna return a list of item here. Get items. And we're just going to return items. And wow, that really changed it to something it wasn't supposed to be. So what is this? Name items does current context. Yes, it does. Items. Sometimes this works, sometimes it doesn't. Just depending on what. Yeah, see, it's... Oh, just... Duh. That's why. We don't have to use returns at all. Return at all. Just specify the... Good. Oops. Specify what we want to return. I guess we do the same for mobs, too. Alright, now what we want to do is do this. Next we want to then go to our form 1. And once it's done with either of these, we want to then well, okay, in this case, well, let's see, if this, that, item, so I guess we could, yeah, we'll have to take, this isn't going to be one line anymore, each, but that's fine. There was going to be other code after this anyway eventually, so. For this one then, once that's done, we want to call, so for each item, item ITM in D handle dot get items. We want to, so basically we're going to test and make sure that the data is being created correctly or inserted correctly and there's no issues happening from the nulls or whatnot, which we'll have to handle, so, probably. So in this case, but for this, we just want to do another message box, message box dot show this, because now we are in a form, so we can use this. And then for the data in the window that we're showing, we're just going to do itm dot get idm iid. That should work for a get, and then we'll just say item ID check. Then message box buttons dot OK. We'll need to fix this so that this will be a string. So dot to string. Now, over here in item, we need to deal with the nulls. So what we're going to do with this now is we're going to flip this around. There's another parameter, I think, that we need to include for that int32.parseInt. That's like a Boolean checker or something. ParseInt, format exception. ParseInt with validation. Try parse, that's it, try parse. So you have the input and then out menu choice. So if int32.try parse, so what's the string representation of a number? Return a value to indicate whether it's succeeded or not. So obviously, so try parse is going to be the item calls here. First parameter. I'm not sure if we need to have. I think it has to have a second parameter. A return value indicates whether conversion succeeded. Out int results. If it's not the correct format or represent number greater than int min value, int parameter. The s parameter is a null string. So if succeeded or 0 if conversion failed. Okay, so it's either going to be the number that was... Okay, gotcha. So, we need to create an int to store this int, parse check, I guess. So, oh, ouch. Parse check. So then, it'd be nice if we could put this into an if statement, though. How come nobody's asked this question? So bool res if... Okay, you could do it that way, I suppose. Oh, okay, I see. So this would represent the value. So in other words, this would be like our ID, for example. Or return a 0 in this case. So this would actually be IID. A property or index may not be passed as an out or ref parameter. Oh, bollocks. So we have to have this here for this, but we're not really going to use this. Well, I guess we could. I guess, yeah, we probably should. Probably could. So how do we want to do this? To me, I'd want to do another function call. So you do this, pass through parse check. If parse check is 0, that means that the value was not parsable. So it's not a null or some string that doesn't conform to being an integer, for example. So we don't really need to have an additional like bool out from this. Well, no, yeah, actually so if, because it returns a bool, so we should be able to just do this. So if this, then ID equals, well, let's see, now if we have if this fails, it should be like, you know, DEFCON 1 kind of situation, if the ID fails to parse. Show message box dot, we'll have to bring in one of those things to have it be in there quickly. Null an ID and item ID failed to parse correctly. Please check your SQL file. So which, so how do we determine which file it's from though? SQL files. So, invalid value. There's no way to really tell what the, what file this thing came from, because we're not tracking that, and I'm not going to track that because that'd be stupid. And then say integer parsing error, and then message box buttons dot k and message box icon dot error. And we'll need to bring in the Windows Forms into this. Okay, and let's actually we do need to create a new bool here. B critical failure. So if there is a failure like this, that we can tell the code to not continue parsing. So we have item calls there. So what we can do with this now to make this actually work properly is throw this into a for loop with a case, I guess. Statement. So it'll be similar to this. It'll be similar to this formatting with a few extra lines, but it'll have the additional functionality that if there is a critical error, that it'll just kill itself. It won't continue with that particular line of code or line of file import. So for int I1 equals 0, I1 is less than itm calls dot count. Add a 1 plus plus, and so for if I should say while. Well, not. Let's see, while. While, no, not a while. For an if rather. If B crit failure, then a switch on I1. Then case 1. So not everything will have a critical failure like this one will. Oh, right. And one more indent. I guess for brevity we can take that out. But for like the ID, because the ID is the primary key, and if the primary key is messed up, then you got bigger problems in your table. So I just want to grab this. So fails. So if it doesn't fail, then it's going to send the parse check out. So we do an else. IID equals parse check. So that'll be the same, not the same, but it'll be the whatever we're supposed to be setting here. Actually, this doesn't matter for this because these are strings, so we don't actually need that here. And this should actually be I1. So case 3, it's the Japanese name, Japan name. Those are done. So now the rest, these next 4 are integers, so we'll need this. So case 4. Actually, well, we'll fix that. We actually don't need this part. these can all be, because it's not really a critical failure on this one. This one can just be what is it, type. So we'll set the type to we'll set I type to 0 if it fails. Else I type will be the actual value. Well, let's see, type. Well, the type would never really be null, though, would it? Okay, I think maybe we'll do a critical for type. Let's see, type. The price, buy price, sell price, and weights. I think those don't really matter, though. Those could be null. And in fact, there are times I think it is null in the database. So we'll just grab this real quick and put it down for 4. An item type failed to parse correctly, invalid value, so that'll be I1. Let's fix that up here too. Okay. And oh yeah, we need to also then say B crit failure equals true. So that it will not continue processing. I'm not sure how it would stop it from reading in the rest of the file. I guess we could have this return. Well, it's a constructor, though. Constructors don't return, to my knowledge. Maybe it could, though. No, yeah, constructors cannot return. Or no, it says it's not all code returns pen. Naming rule violation item members cannot be the same type as their. Yeah, so if it's a constructor, it can't return anything. That's what I thought. So if we wanted to, we'd have to make this into another function to an actual function declaration to actually return anything. That's fine. I mean, when somebody sees this, they should stop using the thing anyway, so it's not that big a deal. Case 4, so I1, this becomes I type. Actually, we should just send out the entire, let's invalid row R. Now let's just send out the entire thing, this item call, or rather the string that it's parsed from, item data, ITM data. That way you can see what row it is and see all the information for it, and in doing so you can get a better idea of where it's at. I think that's actually the better way to go. Because if you have just like one data, if you have like the type, you're like, well, where the hell is this supposed to be at? And you can go searching for it, but it might be in one of several files. If you give them the entire row, they can see, okay, this item is a custom item, so it's in one of my secondary files, or this is in whatever file. It becomes much easier to find it. So parse check I type, and then these ones are just going to be whatever. So IB price. IS price. And then the item weights. What's really going to get interesting is when we get into the actual editing of the values and creation. So some of these fields that are kind of interesting, like for example on mobs, there's a actual kind of a bit sort of field where you have options you can choose to add together to create certain values to tell mobs how to behave. That's where the documentation comes in from rAthena, and I hope to God that's updated and correct, because that's all I have to go in, and I'm not going to go digging through the server code to find out how it actually processes that stuff from the database. Alright, so up to item weight. So we got this next one, which is just a string and a bunch more integers to deal with. So I ATK M ATK. Let's see. So if I'm just trying to. So if this is an equipment or something that should be equipped, then having an invalid value on these should be a on some of these fields should be a critical error type event. If and just considering how that's supposed to happen. So let's go. We're going to go check the documentation sooner than I thought. Item DB documentation. Where are you? Aha, here we go. That's mobs. We want the item DB list stuff. Here we go. So 4 is any kind is a armor, garment, boots, accessory, or headgear. So that's an equipment. 5 is an equipment. Pet equipment, pet egg, ammo. Usable, delayed consumption, shadow equipment. So if it's a 4, a 5, or a 12, I'm not sure what shadow equipment is. Delayed requires confirmation before using the item. So yeah, so if it's if it's 4, 5, or 12, we want to display an error message if the equip fields don't have any don't have a valid value in them. Otherwise, we can return fill it with a 0 because it doesn't really matter for that type of item. Okay, so we'll do this one by hand because we'll need to figure out how to actually format this. So first thing we need to do is check the type. So if I type equals a 4, or if item type equals 5, or if I type is a 12. Any of these. And then the else for if it's not those. So now if it is these, we want to process this as if it's a critical error. So if try parse check an item equip jobs value. That should be value, shouldn't it? That makes more sense. Item type value. Item ID value. That makes more sense over a larger range of potential messages than just saying the particular thing. Integer parsing error. Okay. Failure is true. Else, if it's not a critical, if it passes, then okay, we're getting ahead of ourselves. Next is idef. IEQP jobs equals parse check. Oh, let's go ahead and finish this one off too. So otherwise, we just want to do like a regular integer here. Alright, so why is case 9 cannot fall out of switch from final case label 9? Oh, because we don't have it closed off yet. That's why. And we need to take the break and put it underneath all that. Okay. Let's go ahead and fix this formatting. Formatting nightmares. Okay, else. So that's going to be later on in the section notes. I think it's 11 or 12. So 9, 10, 11, 12, yeah. So case 9. It's going to be more of this. 9, 10. Let's see, defense, range. Actually, no, it's not going to be the same. So, and slots. Slots can be that. But so if it's a weapon, there should be a value for this. If it's armor, it should be a value for this. And for this, also a weapon on range. So actually, we need to do a check here as well. So this is weapon is 5. So if it's 5, if I type equals 5 and ITM calls I1 equals null or equals nothing, then else. So this will handle everything. So if it's an item type 5 and the item calls value is not null or not empty, then it'll go through to here. And if its item type is not type 5, then it'll come down here anyways too. So the only thing that this will fall into is those particular conditions. For this, we need to do another message box. So should it? I mean, logically it should, but there might be a case where you just want to add it on as a bonus or something. But we're going to say it's a critical error. Because if we're going to make a weapon, you might as well give it some sort of attack power. An item, attack, slash, let's say ATK, MATK, value failed to parse correctly. It's because I have no clue what to call it. I don't want to say an item attack or magic attack value because they're not two separate fields. Please check your SQL files. Row, blah, 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 and that. Else do that. So for defense now. If I type equals 4, or if I type is 12, because that's supposedly shadow armor, whatever that, or shadow gear, whatever the hell that is. Alright, so move this down here. So that's really where this goes. And then up here, we want to do another one of these kind of things. Okay. So idef is the thing I want to use there. An item defense value. Failed to parse correctly. And then fix all the stupid messed up formatting from that. Okay. Actually, that should be there. So 10 is range, which is for weaponry. Well, it could be for weaponry. Well, I think weapons have range no matter what. even if it's just one. It has to have a range value so you can tell the server how to process how far away you can actually attack. Obviously, this range field will be different for a ranged weapon as opposed to a non-ranged weapon, but it should still have a value. If I type equals 5, else. Okay. Then again, we can just copy this down here. And item range. And IRNG. Okay. And then once again, gotta try and figure out if there's a way to change how it processes the formatting, auto formatting. Okay, so now we're on to slots, which can be whatever for anything, doesn't have to be anything. So that'll work for that. Let's need to change this to I slots. And then now we come to our 12th case here. So 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Good. So we'll just take this and copy it down. Change this to 13, 14, 15. And then 15. So 13. Alright, starts at 12. 12, 11, or 12, 13, 14, 15 is the locals. We'll have to do a similar thing for these two. This one will have this as well, so 16. We'll modify that. 17 will be the same. We should have an equip level for everything. Should not be null, in other words. Should be at least a 0. Should be at least a 0. And refinable view. So item view. That's an interesting one because it's somewhat different. Well, it's not somewhat different. This would probably work, I guess. If it's not an equipment that you wear, the view ID doesn't really matter. For view IDs for for weapons, it does kind of matter because it doesn't need to actually be a view ID, but that doesn't really matter because it's still going to be a value that will be able to be parsed properly, or not properly. It doesn't matter what the actual value is specifically for our purposes anyway. So 12, that's 17, this should be 16 for this one. This is weapon levels only on 5. Do we really care about this? Rest of the time we don't really care about it. Alright, so I equip jobs. This one is going to be I equip upper, and then gen and locals. So I equip upper. Item equip upper value. Item equip gen for 14. I'm not sure. Does this this shouldn't matter for using an item because we're not really equipping it. We're just using it. So I think that's fine. Item equip gender. And then 15, which is the locations. Item, equip, location. This value failed to parse correctly. Okay, now we have weapon level, which only matters for 5. I've already changed that around. An item, weapon level. Value failed to parse correctly, and this one matters for all that, so we'll leave the if statement as it is. And item equip level. Value failed to parse correctly. So then refinable and iView. So for iView, we can use this. For refinable though, it doesn't matter. It can be a 0 for any of the types. So 17, 18. iRefinable. And then 19. iView. An item view value failed to parse correctly. And then we just have the strings for these last ones, which don't have to have anything in them at all, ever. So we just need to bring down one of these. For the last 3. So case 20, 21, 22. I think no, that's not quite right. Whereas we we either added an extra number or skipped a number somewhere. Right, this would actually be 0. It has to be 0 indexed. Derp. So we're starting on a 0 and the array elements start with 0, so if we do it that way, we're going to end up with a out of bounds error, which we don't, are always not good to get. 12, 13, God, so many lines of code. There's probably a way to do this a little bit better, actually. Like a validation function or something. We'll do that on the next pass. Right now we just need to see if this will actually work or not. Test out the code here. So this is 19. 20, 21. Okay, so we don't need any of that stuff. That will close off the if. And then the next one closes off the for loop. Alright. Now I need to go into one of our files and create a few records that will cause this thing to freak out and display these error messages for us to make sure they're working. So we need to go to our data. Here are these. So let's just change this. So let's see. First, let's make this let's set an S there to see if it'll for the first check to see if this will work. Next, we'll do the item type. So we'll make this null. And then we'll change this to a 4, which is an equipment. So then for that, we'll have, so let's see, type, buy price, sell price, weight. And then the first null is for that, second null, third null, fourth null. So actually, this will be parsed out as a null string. It'll be a string, but it'll be null as a string. Because it's going to be written as a string entirely. So it won't ever be actual null. It'll be a string null with no string markings around it. And same for this. This will be with empty. Well, it could be that, or we'll go ahead and add in the other or here. Item calls I1. So it could be either one of these. So let me go ahead and need to update this. That actually might be the only string we have to do that with, though. Actually, so everything else would not parse correctly. Yeah, it's the only string we have to worry about with that. Okay. So type 4. So we need to create some rows that will fail on each individual one of these as they get read in. So alright, so that's a 4. So this is the attack actually field. So that can be null for 4. That's fine. Is there an ignore case? We might need that for that. Oh no, wait. Yeah. Well, no, for this one, yes. So what if I want to ignore the case on this string? Ignore case comparison. And I spelled comparison wrong, but compare two strings ignoring case. First one's correct. So if val string.val equals string comparison invariant culture ignore case. Since second solution instantiates a new instance of a string, or string.equals val string ordinal ignore case. So I guess we could do this. So string dot equals, and that's obviously going to return a bool, true or false. So string dot equals so the object 1, which is this, object 2, which is that, and ordinal crap. What was it called? String comparison dot ordinal. Okay, string comparison dot ordinal ignore case. So if true, rather. So the string equals in lowercase or uppercase null. If it equals a blank string or if it equals a string with just two single quotes in it, then display this error message. That's the only string that we have to worry about that happening with, thankfully. So we don't have to worry about putting that anywhere else. And that first one can be null unless it's a weapon, which we aren't doing right now, so that's fine on this one. So 8, 9, 10, 11, and 12. 13. So 8, 9, 10, 11. Or no, 8, 9, 10 is fine. So 8, 9, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. 16 in case of this, and 18. So we need to have 8 different cases for armor, which will test all these various conditions. So we'll need to go in here. Okay, so 4. We'll also need to do checking on the ID to make sure we don't have more than the same ID twice. How would we do that though? Because we're inside of the item thing here. That would have to be a check after all the data's been read in. So that would be back in the data handler, I suppose. That's where that would have to happen at. Not a problem, we can add that in later. So, so 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And we'll also have to handle the whole Aegis name constraint too. So you won't be able to have this like a whole bunch of times either, because if you try to insert something into database with that happening, it'll throw an error at you. And I think if you try to do it in the text database, it'll also throw an error at you in the map server. So I'll just rename these. Okay. Oops, we only need 8 of these for this. Well, we'll need some for weaponry too, actually. So we'll leave those there. And we'll just change those to 5s. So 4, okay, so type, buy, sell, weights, attack, which is fine to have null here now. So this, we can't have null on this one. So change it to 45. This one will be null. 45. Now for the equip upper. Jobs equip upper. This doesn't include... Yeah, I'll have to go in and get the bit masks from... I think I'll have to go and get the bit masks from the code because this doesn't include the third jobs. Unless those are using the bit masks for these ones. Which, I mean, they might be. So instead of like having to type in a number or something, you can just click on the jobs in the when we're doing in the editor. We'll have a section for classes that should be able to equip the item, and so you'll just be able to check boxes, and then the flags will be added up in the background. Equipable types, upper types. So 1 is normal classes. 2. Okay, so this can only be a 1, 2, 4, 8, 16, 32, or any of the combinations added together. This is some of the other things I was trying to think of. I've had this on all night, haven't I? Crap. I'm going to go ahead and disconnect from this. Let's also go ahead and I'm going to kill these. We don't need those open right now. Yay, more room to put stuff into. So, let's see, equipment locations. So I don't think I'm going to specifically go through and say, okay, these are the only acceptable values. I'll take whatever value's in there. The problem will be when we're trying to parse the value to determine what's already checked in an item that's there that you want to modify. There may be some issues there. But for now, we're not going to do any of that. Eventually, maybe that will be something I'll add in is actual value checking to make sure it's a valid value as per some of these things. So so slots job equipable. So let's see. 45 is for the range slots. Yeah, this is equipable jobs. So this actually should be 0x000001. 6 zeros and a 1. Or 7 zeros, it's a bit hex, so it should be 8 characters. Yeah. So, here's a question. Will int32.parse and hex values. Will it parse a hex value? Okay, so but does not only other flag that styles. So we'd have to strip off the first 2 characters of a hex. If the number styles is used, S must be a hexadecimal value without a prefix. Oh, okay. So the string number style. What about try-parse though? Does it also have that? Yes, it does. So number styles, a bitwise combination of enumeration values. So hex number. So for at least this particular one, the equipable jobs field, we need to do a few extra things to it in the code. So, where are we? Equip jobs here. So, string. We'll create a new string for it and say hex str equals the item calls. Next, we'll do another string called formatted hex, which will be a substring. Start index. So start index. Would it just be begin? Let's see, hex str dot. I didn't think so. Let's see. How do we define? Is it maybe it's just 0? Maybe we can just do it that way. Substring. Let's see an example here. Console substring start index and length. So the start index would be s index of char range. Oh, okay. So that's finding the index of where this match is at on there. So now yeah, I guess we just say 0 and then the okay, so substring is from where we start at to the end, I believe. So we retrieve the substring of instance. Substring starts at the specific character position and has the specified length. So we would say substring, so we have to take the first two characters off. So starting at 2 for third character and going to hex str dot length -2. So that should give us the non-prefixed hex string. Then we need to use so system dot globalization dot number styles dot hex number. Converts, there's no argument given, result of int I format provider and outint. There's no argument given that corresponds to the required formal parameter result of int dot try parse string number styles I format provider. Except there's only 3 parameters. I think that's just a, let me do a rebuild real quick. It's probably going to fail, but no, it still says that it's there. What is going on with you, IntelliSense? So try parse iFormat provider supplies the specific information about S, culture specific. So I guess if we use the number styles parameter, we have to use the iFormat provider parameter. So iFormat provider dot no, we don't use that. System iFormat provider. Can we do a null there? I prefer putting a null there if possible. Oh, yep, we can. Good. No culture provider for you. Alright. So that's going to be a hex value, so we're going to take that out of there, put that in there. So we're parsing it into an int. Is there a way to parse an int to a hex value again? Or does it, maybe it doesn't even matter, I don't know. C#, parse hex. Converts int to a hex. and back again. So hex value to string x. Oh, okay. X is a parameter for toString. Gotcha. Yay, Geekpedia is gone. That's why I love answers with links to things. Okay, so 182, 82 is a hex string variable, and back again. Well, I guess we'll figure that all out when we get to it, as far as what the parameters should be for the toString. So we have that dealt with now. So try parse hex number. Okay. That should handle that. Now, yeah, so for novice. So now we need to copy this down to here. Here and here. So all these should then, after the first test, should have this so we don't test the same thing again. So next, this will be null. This is the equipable upper, the equipment upper types. As far as what type of type, I guess, of classes can use it. So in other words, sure, you can have the specific classes you're listing here. So this is what I don't get about this. This seems like it's redundant. I mean, we're saying these bit. So maybe I'm right when I'm saying the bit mask is used for every type of class of that type. So in other words, every monk related class. So monk, champion, whatever the third classes are, transcendent classes are, etc. All use the same bit mask. That would make more sense for this. So I think all we have to do with that then is say, why are these missing the 1? Why does this have an L? What the hell is going? What is going on? Weird stuff. So that's null. Now it's not null. This is null. Now it shouldn't be null. For this one, we want to use we'll just say we'll just put a 3 for that, and all these need to be 3 after it. So the next one to be null is this one. So the next one is the gender. So it's either 0, 1, or 2. In this case, we're going to say 2. And this will be, again, null. And then that doesn't seem right. This should be the, I think we, let's see. So type the buy price, sell price, item weights. This is the attack. This is, oh, Jesus. Okay, this is the range. This is the yeah, we kind of screwed that up. All right, let's fix this. So that would be the weights. So this is the attack, defense. Oh, I see. MATK is renewal only. Interesting. So that is very interesting. So then, let me see. Why is ItemDB... Because this is ItemDB RE, that's why. We need to be looking at ItemDB RE. Columns. Okay, yeah, there we go. That makes sense. That's a varchar, so string. What's the... small int. Okay, that's going to be annoying to deal with as well, so we'll have to handle that. That's interesting though. Magic attack in our renewal. Huh. So weight, attack, defense, range slots. So weight, attack, defense, range slots, and then the equivalent jobs. Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Why is this over here for? It shouldn't be there. Alright, we gotta, whoops, fix this stuff up. Okay, now, first one should be null, and then the rest of these should not be null. But they shouldn't be this, it should be the 0x 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 1. Should be this one. Okay. So this can all be null. This is equipment. Well, defense can't be null. That's true. That's where we got stuck on, I think. So attack, defense, range slots. So attack, defense. So this will be null. Then this one has to be something. Yeah, I think that's where we got stuck on. I did that and then forgot exactly what those were supposed to be in reference to. Okay, then we come to our character, so null, null, null. So this one should be null, and that one is not null. So 63, which is everything. Then the gender, and then the equipment locations. Which is the one after that. So gender, then equipment location, 256. Alright. Whoops. Down here we also don't have to worry about that because these are going to be testing weapons. And so we'll have already tested this stuff, we don't need to test it again. If it works for one of the conditions, it'll work for all of them. So to make sure it works for the initially works. So weapon level only matters for weapons. These are not weapons, so we can skip that. And the next one over is the equipment level, which is yes, needed. So this can be null, and this cannot be null. So then this needs to be 1 or 0 or something. Well, let's use 1. Actually, we don't even need them on this, to be honest. Well, yes, I guess we can leave them there. It doesn't really matter. Crap. Okay, then the last two are the refinable and view ID. So view ID has to have a value. So, null, null, that doesn't have to be null. This can be, but then this shouldn't be. Okay, and the rest of these doesn't really matter. So that's our testing for the for armor. Now we need to do testing for weaponry. Now weaponry, we only have a couple of fields that are different. So we have the attack field that we need to have. We have the range field, which we need, so that's 2 fields. And we need the weapon field, so that's 3. So this one we'll only need 3 for. So attack will be null to start with, then we'll need to change it to something else. So 10, 0. Next is range. Then weapon level, which is this one. And that's it. Technically, we don't need the last one here. Okay, so this should test all of our conditions for armor and weapons. Make sure all that is working. Go ahead and continue. Okay, save it. Now let's go ahead and try and run and see what happens. I don't think we need to do anything else in the code to build it. I think we're good. Alright. So, options. What table was that in? First of all, it's a good thing to know. So that's in ItemDB 2. Alright, so we need to have the RE selected. Okay, perfect. We got it. So, item type value failed to parse correctly. Null. Perfect. So, item defense value failed to parse correctly. 4. Good. Item equip jobs. So, item equip jobs. Because that's there, so that shouldn't have failed that. Blah. So our hex. Whoops, I just wanted to stop it, didn't want to restart. So our hex thing here didn't really work. Let's put a... Let's put a breakpoint there. So hex string is a... Oh, because it's a number, not a hex. Well, that's fine for that one. So that one didn't fail. Okay, that one's still that. Actually, it's not even going to go there because we didn't choose that option, the RE option. Right. And let's only go into here if it's failed. So... Alright, so our hex string is 0x00001. What's the formatted hex? Good. So why did it fail? Oh, duh. Of course it failed. We're not using the right thing here. And we also need to then put this down here as well. The full thing. Alright, so ID, type, defense, equip gender. Equip look. Okay, because that went through and that was interesting. There's an equip gender one that failed before this. So yellow potion 4. Equipment level failed. Item view failed. So what other ones didn't fail though? That's interesting. There's some that didn't fail, which is weird. So potion 4, or let's see. This one was okay. So the null type hits, the null defense hits, and then it was a null gender. Oh, right. We need to add in one more. Oh wow, what the heck? We're missing one. That's what happened. 503 is not there. What happened to it? Okay, there we go. Now it's gotta make sure this is right now. Okay, so orange potion was just null there, so I don't need to deal with that. This one should be null. And then this one should be 34. Then that one should be null. Not null. So not null, not null, null, not null. This one should be null. Then not, then yes. Then no, then yes. Then no, then yes. Then no, then yes. Okay. And then these should be 5. Still, it looks like it's reading incorrectly, which is good. I just want to make sure we get everything tested. Alright, so that's right. So that catches the ID, catches the type, catches the defense. And then we can get rid of that, because now that's working properly. Continue. Drop the equip ID, equip jobs value failed. Upper failed. Gender failed. Location row failed. Equip level failed. Then view failed. And then attack, that's good. It's the first weapon. Then item range, that's good. Item weapon level, that's good. And perfect. Alright, all those checks are working now. Awesome. So now we get rid of all this stuff. Okay, and actually these are both 0, I think. They're healing items. And then this should be null. All the rest of these don't really matter. Let me check the equip. Maybe in the equip jobs it says that if it's a particular type of item, it's a use situation. But it's not really what it said. So for normal items, defines replacement use right now. We want the equip here. Equipable jobs, meaning jobs that it can equip an item, doesn't equate to using it. Now, equipable upper, yes. Also, here's the other thing though, equipable upper. Until the problem with those things I was having, the items I was having in my server, when I was doing the thing the last time, was related to this. Once I put this in, value for this in the field, it started working. So maybe these do matter for regular items. There's an easy way to test this. Maybe not easy, but we can definitely go check it out. So, red potion, couple jobs. Set this to update for login check options. All right, set that to 0. Apply. Load the server. If I can find the right window here. I guess this will work. Server, run server. Give it a second to finish the loading. Oh, the map server wasn't done. Yeah, map server wasn't done loading yet. Oh, come on. All right, 6, 4, 4, 6. All right, go ahead and log in. So, at item 1000. Or no, at item 1. 501. Yeah. So red potion. So I've taken off the job equipables thing. Yeah, okay, so we have to have the job equipables. That tells you what classes can use the item. Interesting. So for every item, maybe except for the EXT, etc. items, you have to have these two fields too. And what about genders? Let's change this to a 0, which means only female. So genders isn't used in that. So, but for everything else though, so for every item, then we should be checking the equip jobs and equip upper, because those are needed for every item, and we're just gonna check it for every item, even if it's not if it's like an etc. item. Well, we could say if it's not a, because etc. items aren't usable, so they don't do anything. Item types. Let me go check. So etc. is a 3. So everything else, yeah. So I think unless it's a 3, I don't think we need to check it. But if it's a 3, if it's anything other than a 3, we need to check it. So let's do that. For the equip upper and equip jobs type. So if I type does not equal 3, and same thing here. If it does not equal 3, else parse it as a 0. Okay. So now that's done. It's good to know those. So we do need to have this. So between this and that should be 4 columns. 0 buy, sell, weights. Okay, so these need to go over one more. One of the problems in dealing with flat files is getting the row count right, which is why I don't like to usually work with them. So this, and then this can be null though. That's kind of the rest. All right. So we have our items now that we have in here. What I want to do now is I want to once we've got everything read in and parsed out, and it's correctly being read in. So let's go ahead and run this and see if we have any other errors in our sample data. Which one? Monsters feed. Job equips value is not correct. Failed to parse correctly. Equip jobs. Probably because the line count is off. ID. Oh, we didn't fix the ID value. So those are the only two issues. Okay. Did not fix the ID there. And then monsters feed. So ID, name, type, buy, sell, weights, tack. No, that's in the right place. So monsters feed. Oh. We need to do it this way, because what's happening is that since there's an uneven number of single quotes, the commas are not getting split. Right. I remember mentioning we were going to have to change that last night. So maybe now that will work. Of course, we got to turn that on. Yep, there we go. So that's the ID check. I'm not going to check everything. So what I want to do now, though, is I want to create a list of strings, a list of string lists. Let's put it that way, and then I want to print them out to a window. Build them into a large string and print it out to a window. So this is all going correctly. Now what I want to do is to go to data handler. We need to do our checking for IDs and whatnot. ID and names to make sure that that won't happen, be an issue. File path our data, blah 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 blah. If item, okay, create item line. Goes through, creates the items. Now, this is going to kind of be an after the fact thing, so it'd be good to have real-time checking, but that would mean we'd have to parse it out here in this file in this class first. So it'd be easier to do to say check constraints. And then, of course, we'll pass through a type called item, a string item for a type, so that we can differentiate between the item constraints and the mob constraints. Privates, check constraints, string type. So if type item, so we want to do, so it's going to be like a bubble sort, not really a bubble sort, but we're going to check each ID against every other ID. So it's going to be a double nested for loop. For int I1 equals 0. So similar to the functionality of a bubble sort. I1 is less than items dot count. I1 plus plus. For int J1 equals 0. Well, it should be J1 equals I1 plus 1. So what if we do that? Because we don't want to check the first item. We've already checked it, so we want to try and do this in a way that's going to be efficient. So we only want to check against items we haven't checked yet. So since we're on the first one, we don't want to check the first element against itself because that'll throw out an error, and we don't want to have to check if the elements, if the value of the J1 and I1 are the same, and so to skip it. We just want to say, okay, if we're on the first element of the list, skip that one on the inner loop because we don't really need to compare that against itself. And we don't really need to compare it against anything coming after it because we've already compared it against everything. The problem here is if we're doing it plus 1, that means once we get to the last element, we're going to get an out of bounds error probably on this one because so if is less than the count. So if let's say we have 3 elements in items. We go through 0, 1, then we get to 2. So 2 is the last, so if it's less than count. So we say less than count minus 1. So if count is 3, and we say 2. Less than or equal to. Well, let's see. We want to skip the last item because that's the last item. We don't need to deal with it. So actually what we could then do is say if I1 does not equal items.count minus 1. So if we're not on the last element, then process the inner for loop. If we are on the last element, skip it because there's nothing to compare it to. So if J1, equals I1. If J1 is less than items.count, then J1 plus plus. And then we want to do a check. I also want to, let's make a bool up here. Bool B, let's see, data constraint error exists. And we'll set this to a false. What we'll do is we'll say if there's a constraint error, we won't allow them to generate or export anything. So if if items items I1 dot get or dot IID equals items J1 dot IID, or if items I1 dot ing name equals items J1, I can find J, dot ing name. So if either the ID is the same or if the English name is the same, because the ing name is the aegis name field, which is a constraint in the SQL table and probably a constraint in the flat file read-in for the map server. So we want to show a message box. Yeah, we already had to add that. So what do you not to like? Oh, less than. Right, void. So message box dot show null. So item and then we'll do a plus, and then we'll do items I1 dot ID plus space plus items I1 dot eng name plus. So item has a constraint error, either the ID or name, either the ID or either the ID or name English value is already used. Please check your SQL files. I'll call it data constraint error. Data constraint error. And message box buttons and message box icon error. All right, and then that's equals true. And we'll have it displayed for every time that happens, not just once. Okay. So now we have to test this. So let's set this to 1, and then set this one to orange potion. So each of these will have the effect of testing that in there. And then we'll go ahead and run this code. See if those work. So item 15 null has a constraint error. That's interesting. Well, I shouldn't be spitting it out so many times. Oh, I see what the problem is. Typos. No, no, that's right. Never mind. J1 is right. I1. So J1 equals I1. I1 plus 1. My mistake. Then we are iterating through it. But I think this is wrong. I think. No, that's right. That's right. ing name is right. So that's kind of interesting that it's not pulling the value correctly. Oh, one other thing we have to do with that. ToString on the ID. That might be the reason. Nope, still coming up null. So item 519. Is that at least the one that it should be? Where's the... Here we go, text pad. 519. No, 519 milk. That's not really the one it should be throwing on. Pretty sure it's not used anywhere else. Actually, yeah, it is. No, it isn't. That was from that. Yeah, we didn't say the whole thing. So there's only one 519. 18, 11, 17. Is the item 15 null has a constraint error? So I think that loop is something still wrong. There's something wrong with this loop not working properly. So let me throw a... Let's go ahead and just comment this out so it's not blasting that all the time, and we'll just throw a breakpoint in here and we'll see what these are. Alright, include RE, NDB, alright, so, so 519 and GID. 520, that's fine. So this seems to be the problem. Alright, so they're both getting put in as null. Why are they getting input as null? Process is null. That's a problem over here in the item CSS. So let's throw a check over here. And here as well, probably. Stop, start, go. Alright, so actually it should be on the break, so you can see the assignment after it happens. So milk. It's showing correctly. The ID is 519. ing name. So is there something on the way that we're getting the value? That's that's weird. So dots ing name. No, we're just getting the ing name, which is a public get. And we're getting I1 and J1, so that's not the problem. We're getting the ID correctly. What about JName? Let's go ahead and run this again. I'm not going to worry about doing that. So I just want to put in the JP N name. So that comes out as milk, so that works. Why is the ing name not working now on these? I wonder if we forgot. Maybe there's a. Maybe one of these is still saying ing name somewhere. Oh, I know where. The very last two, I bet. Boom. Yeah. Last three, even. Crap. I just remember that we copied them from up there and I never changed these. Damn. I equip script. And unequip. Okay, problem figured out, and now let's take a look at this. Actually working the way it's supposed to. Or at least working, coded the way it's supposed to work the way we want it to. Not necessarily working the way we want it's supposed to. Alright, perfect, there we go. So, item 05, red potion, has a constraint error. Now, I could do one for each individual one, which I probably will do in the future, but for now, I just wanted to do one single one for both to just make this a little bit quicker. So that was red potion, which has the same ID, so that's fine. Okay. Orange potion. That's interesting. Red potion went twice. So, red potion. I'm just trying to figure out why that went twice for. So, item 0. Okay, so if item is less than, does not equal the last element, then J1 is I1 plus 1. So in this case, it's 1. And as long as it's less than count items.count increment, if items I1, which is 0 ID equals items J1, which is 1 dot ID, or if the items I1 dot English name is the same as items dot J1 English name. So the ID is the same, the English name is not. Now what should happen is that once this calls, it should loop through. This becomes J2, or J2 becomes 2 in this case instead of 1, what it was before. And then so the ID is not the same and the name is not the same. So that shouldn't have thrown a second error, because now we're on to this next one here, 03. Unless it's somewhere else over here somewhere, which I'm pretty sure it's not. $16 sweet potato. Oh wow, yeah, white potion 16. Yeah, and meat's gonna throw an error too. And here we go again. Again, why are we throwing all these error messages when we shouldn't be? Let's throw another. Let's put that breakpoint back here. I'm gonna look at see what the actual values of J and I are for each loop. So item DB. So I1 and J1. That's seriously what they are? 20 and 21? 21 and 20? Oh, item ID numbers. Got you. Yeah. Okay. So potion, orange potion. We don't really care about the Japan name there. JPN name. Japanese name. So that's fine. I also then want to throw in, just to super cover everything, I want to throw on this and see what these are printing out as well. So true and false, that's good. That's what it should be. So continue. So it doesn't look like anything changed. J1 is still 22. So I1 is now 22, J1 is 23. I1 is 18. How do we get to 18? So, oh, damn. I see. We are calling this every time we add an item. That's not what we want to do. After we're done, if type derp. Okay, now that should stop doing that. Yeah, there we go. Much better, not so crazy. So there should be like 4 or 5 of them that are not correct because of the IDs being... So yeah, sweet potatoes, that's the first one that's going to get thrown. Because that file got written before the other one, so it's in there first. Which is interesting. Where's my... There. So... since, let's see, so 28's the last ID that we have in here, 528, so if we're going to be renumbering stuff, we need to go from there. So, 529 and 530. Okay, stop. And I'm gonna get rid of that stupid other thing that comes up all the time. The item ID check. Yeah, this. So we don't need that now. So red potion and orange potion. Good. The only two that have constraint errors. That was actually more useful than I thought it would be. Alright, so we'll name this back to 2. Put that back to 2 and name this potion 2. Actually, it's yellow potion, isn't it? So we'll just call it that. Okay, so now we have these in there. So we have this loading in the data. We have it checking the data for simple constraint checking. So checking if a certain item type, if an item is a certain type, that the fields that need to be put in place for it to work properly are there. They're not null, they're some valid value. If they're not required, then and they're null, they're just getting filled with zeros, which is what would normally happen with that. Or left as null if it's going to be a text field. Then we're checking after all the data's in, we're checking the IDs to make sure they're all unique, and the name underscore English field values, which are the second ones, to make sure they're not the same, so we're not tripping the IGES constraint checking. Now what we want to do is we want to say once the data is input, we want to go to the ItemDB editor. So that's going to be the next phase of this. That we're going to start probably around, I'm going to stop streaming and we're going to start again about an hour and a half or 2 hours or so. So I can take a break and work on some other things that need to get done for today, and then come back and continue. That's where we're going to be heading later on. So thanks for watching so far, and I will see you in about an hour and a half to 2 hours.